Okay, welcome to the Boston Bruins 2019-20 shotgun season preview. I knew I was going to make these things around 5 minutes long, but it's just impossible. Look how fast I'm talking already. So I'm going to aim for 10 minutes or less. Let's try and work that. Let's start off with some statistics from during the regular season last year. The Boston was second in their division overall. They finished, second in division, third overall. On offense, they finished 11th. On defense, they finished tied for third. Their power play was third overall, first in the playoffs. Their penalty kill was tied for 16th. And of course, we all know they went to the finals and lost in Game 7. So this was basically a Stanley Cup team. Can they do it again? Will some of their guys just have to deal with fatigue from last year? I don't know. We'll see. It affects some teams more than others. But let's talk about the GM first. Sweeney is just, I want to call him an almost genius, really. Ever since he stepped in 2015 and took over for Chiarelli, he's been, trying to get rid of his mistakes and has done a great job of just, trading and drafting. And, when he first started up, it was a little strange. Some of the guys he drafted in his first year up to bat, but it's all worked out pretty well. This is a pretty much a really deep team, although a little bit top heavy with that perfection line. Coaches, nothing's going to change there. Cassidy is just a real tactician behind that bench. I'm just so impressed with that guy. Boston is lucky to have him. And there's no reason why he's not going to make miracles with this team again. Now, in terms of what changed in the offseason, they lost their trade deadline pickup Marcus Johansson and also another depth forward in Noel Achari. Achari went to the Florida Panthers and Johansson went to the Buffalo Sabres. So they needed to fill in those spots here and there. The only things they did was pick up depth players Brett Ritchie and Par Lindholm. Both are forwards. Lindholm also plays center as well as wing. And of course, they picked up Maxim Legacy as a third-string goaltender there. Forward-wise, it's the same team, really. I think the big question mark is who's going to play on that second-line right wing spot, who they've had issues with, finding that perfect fit for years with David Krejci and Jake DeBrusk. Now that Jake DeBrusk has solidified his spot on the left-hand side after a burst-out season last year, I would think Kuhlman would be in that position. It might be his to lose, but you might see Chris Wagner moonlight there. Maybe even David Backes getting a shot, a last opportunity, if he's even still with the team. I got a feeling that if they don't buy him out by the beginning of the season, you think they would have done it already at some point or another. If they want to, make some room for cap, especially for Krug and DeBrusk next season, they got to trade this guy, a la Patrick Marleau, Toronto Maple Leafs, and get trade away a first round pick and get rid of his cap hit because it's like $6 million. I'll just click. Yep, $6 million over the next 2 years. And he's 35, and he's not getting any quicker, ladies and gentlemen. So we'll see how that turns out. It seems to be the consensus that they got to move him one way or another in order to sign. Because there's a bunch of RFAs and UFAs coming up next season. It's just not Krug and DeBrusk who headline it, but there's more. Like they might want to keep Charlie Coyle. Ever since grabbing him from Minnesota, he's played out really well as that third line center. Boston local boy. He's been terrific. He was a monster in the playoffs. So yeah. On defense, nothing's changed. Nothing has changed. This might be Zdeno Chara's last year. He's like 42 years old. And maybe they start, they bring up rookie Euro Vakanainen and see what he can do. See how he handles it. Now, he's a prospect they drafted 18th overall in the 2017, so who could battle for one of those bottom pair defense spots, and maybe they want to at least see what they have in this guy before they throw a bunch of money at Krug. I don't know. It's not worth it's worth looking into. And then, of course, they have their big another prospect in Trent Frederick, who was drafted 29th overall in 2016, who's a big physical option in the center position, who they can use as a depth piece as well. Maybe not till after next season. They might use him on the cheap, obviously. And not some of those other guys they have in those positions right now in order to save more clams. What else do we have? Goaltending. Tuukka Rask, Yaroslav Halak were top 3 when it comes to save percentage and goals against practically for the entire season. They were terrific together. They practically split their starts down the half, and it really paid off forward for Rask later on in the playoffs, who played all of the games and was absolutely terrific, albeit he's now 0-2 in Game 7 in the Stanley Cup Finals. But, I mean, if they had won that game, he would have won. It was the Conn Smythe. He was unbelievable. So nothing's going to change there. The issue is they got an aging core. Right? And you think that their window is maybe 2 years max before they start taking a dip and having to retool at the very least. Because Patrice Bergeron's 34 years old. David Krejci is 33. Then there's Brad Marchand, who's, he's 31, but he's getting up there. David Backes is 35. And then, of course, we go to defense. Torrey Krug is 28 years old. He'll be 29 after next year. John Moore's 28. Kevin Miller's 31. And Zdeno Chara's 42. Yeah. But you got to say, Sweeney really prepared himself well for this by just signing McAvoy, his 2 RFAs, and Brandon Carlo to sweetheart deals over the summer. 3 years to Charlie McAvoy at $4.9 million. Mind you, the way it's laden with bonuses and everything, the last year he gets paid $7.3, which means that's the number that they're going to have to start at once his contract finishes. But really, this guy's got a huge ceiling. That might even be cheap for him come that time. So we'll see how that turns out. And then Brandon Carlo is Zdeno Chara light. Really, he's a shutdown defenseman, $2.85 million over the next 2 years. Both guys are going to be RFAs at the end of these contracts. So just really good work that he's done there. Now, the other guys who aren't, besides DeBrusk and Krug, who they have to think about signing, of course, Charlie McAvoy, who I already mentioned. There's Chris Wagner, a depth winger. There's Brett Ritchie, who will be a restricted RFA, with arbitration rights. Par Lindholm. And then on defense, there's Kevin Miller, and of course, Zdeno Chara, who will probably retire this season, if I haven't said that 3 times already. And Matt Grichlik, who's 25 years old. He'll be an RFA after next season with arbitration rights. He's making $1.4 million. So there's some moves. So bringing in some rookies this year and next might help save them a little bit of money, maybe buy out Backes or trade him in exchange for a draft pick and free up some more space in order to keep Kruger DeBrusk. We'll see. I'm really excited to see what these guys do in the upcoming season. Where do I see them finishing? The Atlantic is the toughest division, bar none, in the entire league. Florida really improved in the offseason. You all know about that. New coach, new goaltender, a bunch of new depth pieces on defense and on the wing. So they're going to be fighting for a playoff spot. Tampa Bay and Toronto are both lethal as well. I see Boston finishing as no lower than 4th in their division, but definitely at the very least getting a wild card spot. And possibly even as finishing as high as 2nd. I'm going to guess 3rd. I'll go right in the middle. And don't forget, the Montreal Canadiens are going to be biting at their ankles too, because they were only fell a couple of points or so out of a playoff spot last season, and they've improved their team as well. So, and they're hungry. So yeah, as always, I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions on where you think Boston's going to finish and how their season is going to go. Hit like if you like this video. Smash that subscribe button if you haven't already. And hey, if you happen to have any Hockey Geek friends, please don't feel shy about sharing. Thanks again. I'll see you soon.